Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, please start.
Okay. All right. Greetings, everyone. Thank you very much for taking time to join us today for this webinar, which is Business Continuity in the Midst of the Storm, ensuring your digital assets are safe, secure, and protected. I do apologize for any delay that we had in getting this webinar started, but I know the content is going to be very good, and we are excited to share it with you today. My name is Pat Turney, and I am the Director of Partner Relations here at JMark. And this is another installment of our Partner Webinar series, and these webinars are designed to help you as a business decision maker to gain more knowledge and insight into topics that can help your organizations. We hope that this content is relevant and applicable, and it will help answer some of the questions you might have. So we recognize your time is precious and are honored to have that you have chosen to participate in this event. So during this presentation, you can ask questions by simply placing them in the chat window. We will pause at some intervals and at the end to answer these questions. A copy of the recording will also be made available soon after the event. So JMark, of course, we are a company that has been in business almost 30 years. We're a market leader, recognized as one of the top IT solution providers in the country, and we offer a full range of solutions and managed services, and we tailor those to your company's needs. Enough about us. I'd like to go ahead and introduce today Eric Torres with Datto. He is our guest presenter. Eric joined Datto as Channel Development Manager in March of 2015. And prior to joining Datto, he ran the Datto sales operations and business practices for a successful 65-person managed service provider out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. He has keen knowledge and expertise on business continuity and has presented on this topic numerous times. Recently named to CRN Magazine's 100 People You Don't Know But Should list, he brings passion for business continuity and working with companies like JMark to his role and focuses on supporting the Datto partner community and growing their business and helping their clients to succeed. I'd like to say welcome to Eric. Thanks for joining us today, Eric.
All right. Well, thank you, Pat, and thank you all for joining us today. I know you guys are all busy, so I certainly appreciate the time, and my apologies for the technical difficulties we experienced there in the beginning, but let's go through because I've got some great content for you guys. First, a little bit of background about Datto. I do not have the control, so Pat, if you could just advance the slide for me.
Okay, you should have control now.
No, I don't have control. There we go.
There you go.
There's a delay. All right, there we go. So a little bit of background about Datto. We were founded in 2007 by still our current CEO, Austin McCord. And what Austin did was he looked at what enterprise-sized companies were doing as far as backup. And he said, he sought out to create a solution that's bigger, faster, and stronger, and affordable for businesses of all sizes. And since then, we've grown the company to just under 900 employees worldwide with offices all over the world. We're headquartered in Norwalk, Connecticut, offices in Boston, Rochester, Toronto, London, Sydney, and I had the joy of helping generate some interest in Southeast Asia when we opened up our office in Singapore. We do have 9 data centers around the world, but I want to be very clear for you guys. The data that lives in the U.S. stays in the U.S. We have a data center on the East Coast and one on the West Coast, and none of your data leaves the U.S. borders. And my role with Datto is to talk to people about rethinking backup. Backup is more than just an insurance policy for natural disasters, because disasters come in all forms. And I know that recently, as recent as last month, there were a couple tornadoes that touched down in Tulsa, right by the JMark offices. And so we had a lot of friends and a lot of clients that did experience these natural disasters, that did have their networks go down as a result. And because of this, that spawned this webinar here. We want to get that messaging out there that there is business continuity options for you guys, and there are ways that we can protect your data in the event that you experience something like this.
Yes, that was an event here in Tulsa, and I can actually look outside my window, Eric, and see still some of the damage that we had. So it can these disasters can happen suddenly, and it's definitely important that you be prepared for those events.
In addition to that, I understand that last year you experienced some flooding as well. Can you talk to us about that?
Yes, we in Springfield, Missouri, at our headquarters, there was a lot of rain. I believe it was 6 inches, but it was quite a significant amount of rain that came in a short period of time that caused flash flooding in our parking lot. And we did have a disaster recovery plan in place, but it still caused damage, and we had to enable that plan. And it just goes to show that none of us really are safe. We need to be prepared for these events, and therefore that's why we wanted to have this conversation with our clients and bring you on, Eric, so you can discuss the business continuity and to help all of us have an even better understanding of that.
Exactly. And one of the things that I like sharing with people, this slide here, this picture here, this is an actual room in the Datto headquarters, because we do know that there are those natural disasters that come in and wreak havoc in certain geographical areas. So what we have is a war room set up where we monitor weather patterns all throughout the world, really. And we look at the things that are happening out there and try to stay in front of it. As we see these conditions build, we're then able to contact our partners, just like JMark, in a certain specific location and say, hey, we're here for you. We've got a team ready. If you do have any clients that go down, we've got a team of engineers on standby waiting to virtualize their networks and get them back up and running and protect that data, which is exactly what we saw as we saw Hurricane Harvey building up in the Gulf Coast. And when this hit, just prior to it hitting, what we did was we actually sent some of our engineers down to Houston. And as we saw this building in the Gulf, we grabbed a few of our best engineers. We put them in a truck, filled the truck full of Datto equipment, Datto networking equipment, and had them drive down to Houston and just wait for direction from our partners that we had hands on site to help assist with this. Now, we didn't know the extent of what we were getting ourselves into as far as the damage, and it was much worse than we thought. Literally all of Houston was underwater. So we ended up sending even more engineers down there to assist in virtualizing and getting these networks back online, back up and running as quickly as possible. And that's exactly what Datto does in a case of disasters and business continuity. It's all about getting your network back up and running as quickly as possible in any kind of disaster. Because we do know that not all disasters are natural. Yet when people think about a backup solution, especially those in areas that are prone to disasters, that's what we seem to think about. We think about the fires and the floods and the tornadoes. But there's another disaster that happens no matter how big, no matter how small your network is, no matter how much of an investment you make, and that's people. People are also the reasons why networks go down. So I do want to take some time to get that message out that oftentimes people are also your greatest risk. And I have some stories around that as well to help strengthen that business continuity mindset when it comes to networks that are going down. Here's a story that I've got about Alcoa. Alcoa is a multi-billion-dollar global organization, and they got hacked and brought their network down exactly the same way that a natural disaster would. But what makes this story different is that they did it through email. They sent an email to every single person in the company because they know that at least one employee will click on anything. And that's how they brought this network down. So understanding that, there are the human elements that also go into this. Not that long ago, about a year and a half ago, our Pentagon was also hacked. In the Pentagon, in this case, it was a little bit different. They didn't send an email to everybody at the Pentagon. They picked a certain few, and this is the first attack that we saw that was more along the lines of of a phishing scheme where what they did was they did their homework first before they attacked them. They went through their Facebook accounts and LinkedIn and bank statements, and they figured out where their kids went to school, and then they crafted their message to those 16 people to say, hey, you know, can Johnny come over to Sarah's house this weekend for a birthday party? Click on this link for directions. And that's exactly how they got into the Pentagon. Back in the day, these hackers are basically just somebody in their parents' basement, some bad guy that wanted to break in somewhere for more bragging rights than anything else. And that's what they did. They would break into somewhere, cause a disruption, cause the network to go down, and then what they would do is they'd go into a forum and they'd brag about it and just chat about it. But what makes them dangerous is once they started making money. And once they figured out how to make money, they started organizing. And they started building these criminal empires to help assist with that, with the spreading of the ransomware. So I've also got some stories I'd love to share with you guys specifically about that as well. Here's a new strain of ransomware that was testing our own morality. If anybody happen to hear about this particular strain, popcorn time. And this one is pure evil genius when you think about it from a criminal standpoint. This particular ransom, what it does is it poses a question to the victim. You could either pay me if you get this ransom or the ransomware, or if you want to send this to 2 of your friends and they pay it, we'll give you your data back for free. And in this case, it's turning the victims into criminals themselves. It's the evolution of ransomware that we're seeing where these guys are thinking so far outside of the box where they're having their victims do their dirty work for them. In this particular case, this ransomware ended up evolving from that and went into a more user-friendly version of it. What if your friend, so-called friend that you're sending this ransomware to, was on the other side of the world? Well, now they have a drop-down menu within the ransom ask itself so that if you do go down and you do happen to not speak English, there's customer service involved with this, and now you have the ability to pay these bad guys your money for your data. Earlier this year, we heard all about WannaCry. And WannaCry, I want to take a second to share what WannaCry was really about. So WannaCry was the first one that used the old with the new. So what WannaCry did is it used a worm, and it piggybacked ransomware on top of this worm, meaning that this particular strain of ransomware, it went all throughout the world. It affected 200,000 devices in over 150 different countries, and just sat there dormant, waiting for them to turn on the ransomware itself. And when it did, it affected all of those devices all at once within 24 hours. Now, the thing about ransomware is that this particular strain, WannaCry, is that it wasn't so much about the ransom itself and getting the money that way. The FBI seems to think it was about increasing the value of the Bitcoin in the accounts that these guys already had. In this one day when it attacked, it quadrupled the value of the money that they had already stolen. So, for example, this year in the first of the year, the cost of a Bitcoin was $698. After WannaCry, the cost of a Bitcoin jumped up to over $4,000 per coin. That's exactly what this particular case was. Here's another one that I found along my travels, the Big Mac ransom. In this case, what the Big Mac ransom does is it changes the ransom ask based on where the victim lives, based on the Big Mac index. The Big Mac index is the cost of a Big Mac depending on where you live, your specific city, your specific town. So, for example, if you live in Manhattan and you're used to paying $6 for a Big Mac, you're going to ask for a lot more ransom if you're attacking that person because they're used to paying more for their goods versus somebody in, say, Manitowoc, Wisconsin, where the cost of a Big Mac is only $3. You're going to ask a little bit less of a ransom because you don't want them to hesitate and to say, no, that's too much money, I'm not going to pay that. That's the first of the kind that we've seen base it off of location. And once it started working, the evolution of this, it popped up on the dark web. Any one of us right now can go in and purchase this ransomware on the dark web and start using it on our own. So that's the evolution of this strain that we saw, where basically they had a product or they had a ransomware that worked. They turned it into a product and started selling it. And what happens when you sell a product, you have to support it. So what happened in this one is they actually had a chat session. You can actually contact the original creators of this ransomware and chat with them and change the ransomware that you're buying. You can change the color of it. They'll help you set up a Bitcoin account. They'll do everything they can to help their users, and in turn, all of that is a service, and yes, they are charging for that. So some of you may be thinking, great, I already have a great backup solution. It's in place, I'm backing up my data regularly, and it's restoring our data offsite in case we do get attacked by ransomware, in case we do have that natural disaster that does come in and take down an entire network. That's exactly what San Francisco thought. The San Francisco Transit Authority, they got hacked, and their ransomware ended up shutting down all of their kiosks for their train system. And in this particular case, they didn't shut down the entire train system. They let people ride the trains for free that day, or those 2 days. But their IT department said, we'll just restore from our backup solution. We have a solid backup solution in place. We know what we're doing. Let's just rebuild our network. Well, as a result, their network was down for 2 whole days while they rebuilt their network because of that ransomware. And it wasn't just any 2 days. It was the Friday and Saturday after Thanksgiving, the 2 most heavily traveled days for the Transit Authority. They provided 735,000 rides a day at a cost of normally between $1 and $2.25 per rider. So you can see where I'm going with this. Total lost revenue up to $3.3 million, all because they had a backup solution versus a business continuity solution, which is what Datto offers, which I'm going to get into in a little bit, and the differences between business continuity and backup. So we're always looking forward. We're keeping an eye on weather systems back at our central office, and we know when disasters hit, and we're there, and we're providing our support in the minutes that we need it and getting our clients back online. And then the different attack that we're doing is on ransomware itself, because we know ransomware is running rampant, and it's an epidemic that's not going anywhere. But we're doing something about it. We're doing something that no other continuity provider is doing. And last year, toward the end of the year, we introduced ransomware detection. And what this is, I want to be very clear, this is not prevention. This solution will not prevent ransomware. This is on the back end of it. Your security solutions, your firewalls, and the security solutions that you implement, those are on the front end. Those block the ransomware. But what happens if something does get through that you need to be aware of, and you need to be aware of it quickly? So how exactly does this work? We're taking snapshots of your network, every single device, all of your servers, all of your workstations, both Windows, Linux, and Mac, and we're taking snapshot images as little as every 5 minutes, and we're storing those images. And now with ransomware detection, we're able to take the 2 most recent snapshots and identify any kind of ransomware footprints that may have happened. When you do get ransomware, what happens is it bulk changes the names of the file structure. And we're able to see that in near real time and then raise a red flag and say, hey, there's something going on in that last backup from 5 minutes ago. Before you go in and dig into it, we're also going to let you know the nearest clear version of it so that you can restore, you can virtualize your network, have all of your staff up and running virtually, while in the background, we're in there finding out, okay, did ransomware indeed attack this network? That's what this is.
So, Eric, how often is that happening?
So what we have is it's set up per server and per workstation. We can do it as little as every 5 minutes, but it's happening, the ransomware detection, on every single backup. So it's not a matter of checking it once a day or a couple times a day. This is as little as every 5 minutes. So rethink backup from a sense of just having your data somewhere and viable, and start thinking business continuity, because that's the true thing that you need to be concerned about when you're thinking about ransomware, when you're thinking about these natural disasters, the ones that are hitting close to home, those fires, those floods, and those tornadoes. Think about business continuity, and if that network goes down, how quick can I get back up and running, taking care of my clients? So What is continuity? It's always easier for me to start with what is not continuity. Continuity is not a cloud-only copy of your data. That's excellent. You have your data living off-site, and that will surely help you if you do experience a natural disaster or a ransomware attack. However, what happens when you need to actually access that data? If it's a lot of data, you have to go in and download that data as you're rebuilding your network, or you have to have your provider put it on a hard drive and ship it to you. And in that time, you can't work. Your employees are not able to access the network, not taking care of your clients. A local-only copy of your data obviously isn't business continuity, because what if there is that natural disaster that does come in and take down a network? If that was your only copy of that data, unfortunately, it will be lost if you do lose that network. And I do include tape in that. And just for some enlightenment, a tape backup, if anybody is still using magnetic tape to back up their critical business data, magnetic tape was invented in 1928. And it is still being used to back up critical business data, which I think is absolutely mind-boggling considering how far we've come in regards to technology. A file-based backup is not business continuity either. A file-based backup is basically just picking bits and pieces of your network to back up rather than all of it. So you're backing up specific folders and partitions, but what happens if you have somebody that creates a new folder that wasn't on the backup schedule to begin with, and they accidentally delete something? That data is gone forever. That is not business continuity. Continuity is, it's a hybrid cloud-based backup. And what that is, that's just a fancy way of saying we keep multiple copies of your data. What we have is a solution where we have an appliance, either physical or virtual, that lives on site at your office. And it stores your data as little as every 5 minutes. And that appliance is then sending that data to 2 of our data centers, one on the East Coast, one on the West Coast. So we're essentially keeping your data in 3 different locations. We're keeping it on site, we have it in our data center on the East Coast, and have it in a data center on the West Coast. It's an image-based backup, meaning we're backing up everything. We're backing up all of your servers, all of your workstations. We're backing up the operating systems, the files, the folders, the partitions. We're even backing up your desktop backgrounds, your applications. We're backing up all of your kids' pictures that you have on there, so that when it comes time to virtualize, when it comes time to use that data, it's exactly how you're used to working. Same desktop background, same shortcuts, same applications. All of it is exactly how you're used to working. We deliver superior, and I will warn you, here's an industry buzzword, RTO and RPO. That's recovery time objective and recovery point objective. It's basically how long can you be without your data, and how much data are you willing to lose. And I have a great way of quantifying this and helping understand the true value, the cost of being down, and what it means for your business. And we eliminate downtime through virtualization. Now, this is what's causing Datto to grow at the pace that we're growing. And let me dig into what exactly virtualization is and how we do it. So continuity, how does this work? Instant virtualization is what Datto offers. So you're working, and for whatever reason you can't work. There's a fire, there's a flood, there's a tornado that touched down. For whatever reason, you've lost access to your network, or it could have been ransomware that brings the network down. What we have is a solution where we just go over to the Datto appliance and we spin up an exact same image of that server or of that workstation from a matter of 5 minutes ago and get you back up and running virtually, taking care of your clients while we in the background rebuild that network if there's a natural disaster, or find that ransomware if there's malicious code that has infected the network. The benefits of virtualization: we reduce downtime, obviously, because we can do this in a matter of minutes. We can bring your network back virtually. In a matter of seconds, we can bring a workstation back virtually. It helps with your recovery time objective and recovery point objective. Again, that's basically the dollars and cents behind downtime and what it costs you and your specific business. And we can virtualize both locally from the on-site appliance, either physical or virtual, or we can virtualize from the Datto data center itself. And that comes into play if there are those natural disasters out there. If you do lose an entire network, you lose your building, we are able to spin up the entire network from our data center, giving you login access to it so you can continue to take care of your clients. So stop thinking so much of a backup in a sense of just natural disasters. You have to look at this from both angles. The natural disasters, yes, but obviously the ransomware out there, because that is an epidemic and is certainly not going away. Start thinking of this as business continuity. How fast can I get back up and running and taking care of my clients? That's what business continuity is. So far, do we have any questions on virtualization, on the backup solutions itself, and how we're backing up this data?
Yeah, we had some questions. One of the questions that came in was on the ransomware detection. How is data alerting on that? Because there was a discussion or a point that said we'll notify you of any changes. So talk about that notification, how that happens.
So that notification comes directly to you, JMark being the provider of the data solution. And what that is a red flag that goes off immediately. And it's within the data portal itself. There's email alerts. And if those alerts are not responded to, we'll even have our staff, as we catch that, calling our partners out there saying, hey, that last backup, something's up with it. And we, in our mind, the faster we react, I mean, that's critical. So immediately we spring into action. So it's an alert that pops up immediately in the portal itself, and then from there, there's a series of email notifications that go out instantly with urgent messaging.
Very good. And speaking about your data centers, where are those located again?
We have two. There's one on the East Coast in Reading, Pennsylvania, and then another data center in Utah, in Salt Lake City.
Okay.
So we geographically do that so that if there is a natural disaster on either coast, we're protected because we have that data living somewhere else.
Okay. And how long are you keeping the data?
We're keeping the data entirely up to our clients' and partners' discretion. So we keep it for either a rolling 12 months worth of versioning. So what that means is we're keeping your data for a rolling 365 days of the different versions of files. If it's saved on the network, it's there. It's not going to get deleted. It's just the different versions of it. So the way I describe that is if you have a Word document, you create it one day, you make some changes to it the very next day. Essentially what you have is two separate documents, two of those versions saved. We will keep that first original version for 1 year on one of our solutions. We also have another one where it's an unlimited storage for an infinite length of time. So basically that comes huge into play in the financial industry space and healthcare space. We'll keep that data as long as you want, and you are in control of it. You tell us when you would like us to purge that data.
Okay. I believe that is all the questions we have at this moment. So thank you, Eric.
Okay. To move along, total data protection. That's what Datto does. We protect your business data no matter where it lives. Now, let's take a step back. I had mentioned RTO and RPO, recovery time objective and recovery point objective. So real quick, I want to explain what exactly this is and how to quantify this. So I have this infographic. In the middle, in the red, there's your disaster. At a certain point in time, something happened. Whether it's a natural disaster, whether it's a flood, a tornado, or ransomware, something brought down a network. Your recovery point objective is basically how far back in time are you willing to go? How much data are you willing to lose? Are you willing to recreate a day's worth of data, an hour's worth of data? How much data can you realistically lose and still have your business survive? RTO, recovery time objective, how much downtime can you face? How long can you be without your network? Is it an hour? Is it a few minutes? Is it a day? Is it multiple days? The statistics show us that for a small to medium-sized business, if you are without your data for longer than 5 days, 5 consecutive days, the chances of being in business are very slim, and it's something, I forget the exact number, but it's down to, I think it's like 90% of businesses that lose access to their network for 5 consecutive days are out of business within 12 months. So those are some scary things to think about when it comes to recovery point objective and recovery time objective. So in knowing that, we have an RTO/RPO calculator. So what this is a tool where you can go in and you can quickly calculate what downtime costs your specific network. And I'll show you how this works. Step one is you set your recovery objective. This is your RTO and your RPO. How long can you be without your network? And then how far back in time? How much data are you willing to lose? And this is in sense of time. I could be without my network for a day, 24 hours, or 12 hours. That's what you would set on the left. And then the right part of this calculator is how much data are you willing to lose? How far back in time are you willing to go? Is it an hour's worth of data? Is it 12 hours worth of data? Could you recreate a day's worth of data if it was lost? Step two is about the network itself. How much data is on that network? How often are you currently backing up that data? What does that schedule look like? Are you backing it up twice a day, once a day, multiple times a day? How long does it take to initiate your recovery process? If your network goes down and you need it to bring it back up, what does your recovery process look like? Who are you calling? How fast can they get there? And you have to take into account that time, especially if your network is down and you are not able to access and take care of the normal activities that you are normally doing for your clients. And then lastly, are you restoring from a local copy or a cloud copy? I will warn you, if you're restoring from a cloud copy, the number skyrockets. And that's because it takes into account having to download that data from a data center somewhere, or having your provider put that data on a hard drive and ship it to you overnight. During that time, you're down, and as a result, the cost of your downtime increases significantly. And then lastly, about the business itself, step three, how many employees are affected? What is the revenue generated per hour by these employees? What's the average wage of these employees? And what's the hourly overhead cost per employee? And I can tell you from sitting down with a lot of people, not all of this is known. You may not know the average revenue generated per hour by employee, and it's perfectly fine to leave this at zero if that's unknown. Another unknown that I see often is hourly overhead per employee. And a great way to cheat that is basically it's half of the average wage is your overhead. So if your average wage is $30 an hour, your overhead is roughly $15 an hour. After you input this data into the calculator, it'll calculate for you your specific business based on your employees, based on your size network, based on your RTO and RPO thresholds, what downtime costs you per hour. And I can tell you that from going through this calculator with many people, the cost is increasing. And in this particular case, on a small network, 400 gigs of data, downtime of 12 hours in between backups for 20 employees, it's almost $4,000. And in this particular case, with this size network, we have a solution in place that is roughly a cell phone plan a month for business continuity, for that virtualization feature, for the ability to go down and essentially rewind the hands of time and say, okay, my network went down. Let me just go back to 5 minutes ago, bring everything back up virtually, and get back to work. That's what Datto does. Total data protection, no matter where your data lives. We have a whole suite of solutions. This specifically is our Cirrus and Alto solutions. That's your business continuity solutions. That is essentially a business continuity solution in a box. So how are JMark and Datto helping? I mentioned this calculator. I ran through it. This calculator is yours. It's completely free. There's nothing to purchase. I encourage you to use this calculator. In a matter of minutes, you can calculate what downtime costs your specific business. And it's entirely free to use. In order to get that tool, what you have to do is send an email to education@jmark.com. From there, a member from JMark, a representative from JMark will be in touch. They will provide you with the calculator. You can go through it. You can look at what it costs your specific business to be down, and then from there, talk with JMark about business continuity and how they can go in and help protect your business data from those natural disasters, from that malicious code and ransomware. All data is valuable. JMark are the experts in protecting that data through the tools that Datto provides them. And
well, great. That's good. I'll speak to that there, Eric. I mean, that's really some good information. We have a few more questions, but before we get to that, I do want to encourage people to visit our website because there you'll see IT Solutions. There's a resource there so we can help you out, and there's white papers, ebooks, and blogs, and more that are available at our website. Also, there's a list of the events that we've got happening, including future webinars. I would like to talk about our next webinar in just a moment. Before we do that, let's go ahead and see if there's any more questions. I did have a couple. First off, with regards to getting the data off-site, how long does it take to get some of these data off-site, Eric?
So it depends on the amount of data and the amount of changes to that data on a daily basis. But there's a couple things in play here. When you first implement a Datto solution through JMark, what we do is, depending on your amount of data, we capture that data on a drive and we store it on a drive, and then we ship that drive physically to one of our data centers and upload your base image of your data from there. In the meantime, while that's being shipped, your data is being backed up to the Datto appliance on site, and then what we do is we marry that data together, the changes along with that base image that's living off-site in one of our data centers. So that's when you first implement the solution. On top of that, all of the changes that take place, those are going off as little as every 5 minutes, and they're sending that data off-site. But you can customize that because we do understand that we don't want to bog down your network connection. So what we have is bandwidth throttling. So, for example, you can say, I only want to use this much of my internet connection during business hours to send my data off-site, and then after hours, let's open up the pipe when nobody's using that connection, and let's get the rest of the data off-site in that manner. So there is bandwidth throttling built into it, but it does depend on the pipe needed depends on the amount of changes daily that's happening to your data.
Okay, well, very good. One final question we had was what operating systems do you protect?
All of them, all of the major ones. So we have Linux, just about every single flavor of Linux. Any of the Windows operating systems from the year 2000 and up. I would highly recommend, if you're using anything older than that we talk about a network upgrade rather than than trying to back that up. And then Macs. So we see a lot of that within the creative space. So your marketing agencies and things like that are using Macs, we are able to back that up as well.
Okay. Well, very good. I would say that if definitely if you're using something that's that old, there are still companies that use those. We definitely want to have a different conversation about upgrading to something more current and to protect you. So, again, we'd just like to thank everybody for joining us today, and thank you so much, Eric, for sharing the knowledge and expertise you have in business continuity. We hope the content and items discussed have been very beneficial and that you learned something. Please reach out to us at jmark@jmark.com or contact your account manager. Also, again, to remind you, that calculator, you can get that by just contacting education@jmark.com or your account manager, and we would be happy to get that to you and also help you to go through that calculator tool. It's really a great tool to help realize the cost that is to the organization for not being backed up, and to help you become have more business continuity in your environment. So that's a great thing. Thank you so much, Eric, for sharing that with us.
Sure, absolutely, and thanks for having us, and thank you all for spending part of your afternoon with us. I certainly appreciate it. If anybody has any further questions about Datto and you want to contact me directly, my email is on there, et@datto.com. From there, we would involve the experts at JMark and get them involved in any kind of conversations as well. So feel free to reach out.
Definitely. And then next week, everybody, Thursday, September 28th at 1 p.m., we have a Business Builder webinar entitled Increase Revenue and Boost Profits, 5 Strategies to Acquire New Customers, and the 4-Step Formula to Keep Them Coming Back. This will be a great event, and our guest speaker has written 14 books and over 400 articles on the topic of business leadership. So we hope to see you back here again next week. You can visit jmark.com/events or contact your account manager for more information. Thanks again, and we hope you have a great rest of the week. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.